everyone, my name is Sandra. Welcome back to my channel. So I have another brush pen review for you. When do I not? These are the Camlin brush pens from India. I was waiting on these a long time ago. I did order them the same time as the DOMS brush pens. If you will recall, that's these ones here. So my review on these wasn't great in the respect that I would not use them for brush lettering. I have given them to my son so he can use them to color with. I guess what we'll do is kind of compare them a little bit because the size of the width of the downstrokes are similar, and the brush pens are both from India, and they're the only two that I have from India. So I'll kind of talk about that in comparison a little bit. Just so you know, there were 14 shades in here, so I'm going to link that video too if you want to go ahead and check that out. But I will compare the black and just to show you what I'm talking about when we go through these. So my very first impression when I looked at these pens is that they were very similar to the DOMS brush pens. They're about the same size. We'll take the black one here. They're very similar in size. They are exactly the same in width, like with the cap. The body of the pen is a bit thicker than the DOMS, but they're the same height basically. And so obviously my instant reaction was like, oh no, they're probably going to be the same type of brush pen. But I was pleasantly surprised. They still are a softer brush pen, which you'll see shortly when we do the color swatches here. But there's something to the way that the tip bends, which again I'll show you, and the way that you can control it. So it's actually quite interesting when you actually have all of the different brush pens that one could possibly use in front of you, and you have tried them all. I have tried every single brush pen. The only two that I have not tried are the Winsor & Newton water brush pen, as well as the Ecolines, and those are mostly for water painting and watercoloring, and I don't think I would use them for hand lettering. So take it from somebody who has tried every single brush pen. I got quite a few comments actually on the Monami, I think they were like the Twin Plus marker, but the one where it had the double end and they were both brush tip pens. I got some comments saying that if I compared everything to Tombow, of course they won't, reach the standard of that. However, I have tried so many brush pens, you guys, and I have got, personally, for a beginner, and not just for a beginner, I guess I shouldn't even say that, for anybody, the harder brush pens are easier to work with. It's just a matter of fact. It's not an opinion even. You might prefer a softer brush nib for different reasons, but the harder ones are easier to learn with. And that's something that I found to be true. Even from other people that I talk to, they just have more control. And the more control you have, the easier it is to get beautiful hand lettered pieces. So let's go ahead and try these out, and then we will kind of chat about them in a bit.
I remember when you put a spell on me, it drove me flying crazy. Couldn't see back then what's now in front of me. The disco's long gone, baby. You got me good, yeah, you got me bad. And you're bad as they come, boy. Through all the blue times and the sad, you're still there. So come on and unrock my heart, let it stop. I'm a fall in love, unlock my cups, rip them off. This is photo love. You'll be my anchor while I'm the sea for all eternity. I'm a fool in love, fool in love. I'm a fool in love, fool in love.
Now, I didn't put these in order. I just basically took them out of the box the way they were in there when they arrived, and I, used them in that order. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I guess it kind of does, and then all of a sudden it doesn't, and then it kind of does, and then it doesn't. So I don't know. It's just funny. So the only pen that I noticed a huge difference was the brown one here. The nib is really pushed out, so I think all I'd have to do is maybe take some tweezers and push it back in. That's the only anomaly I found. And other than that, let's talk about the actual pen itself. So there are 24 colors, and I like the selection. I'm actually quite impressed with how many neutral colors there are. This one could technically be classified as a neutral because it's ochre. So, I mean, there's quite a few. I love this kind of like olivey green piney forest color down here. That one's just so pretty. And I love these as well. This whole range is just kind of like where it's at for me. But overall, like, I guess I'm not really impressed with these two highlighter colors over here because, you know, you could basically use them as highlighters, which is interesting. You know, even the pink one, like I'd prefer to have like a more mellow pink. So you have, you know, something in that color range because you can't really use this as a pink. It's more of a hot fuchsia. So that's kind of an interesting. I do also love this color here, and the yellow is really pretty. But this one, that's that like peachy color. That one's super, super pretty. I think those two are my favorite colors in this whole range, is that kind of pink color and then this green color down here. So the ink itself, it's very saturated. I don't know if you can tell, they're juicy without being too juicy, but with the brown one, you could kind of see it running on the paper. And I am using HP Premium 32 paper, and I use this one, or I use the Rhodia paper for all of my brush pen reviews because it's a softest paper that won't destroy your brush pens. So you will notice when I was doing the words up here, I was having some issues with the black. So it's probably one of the ones I've used the most, I guess. And it did bounce back. So when I was first using it, you could see it was really listing to one side. And I already feel a little bit of fraying going on, which is why some of these weird kind of like rough edges, which I don't really like. Overall, I have to say that I do prefer them to the DOMS for sure. These, you can still hand letter with them. It's just a little bit more difficult. So the one thing also I've noticed is that there's nothing to stop it from rolling away on you. It just keeps going if you have a slanted desk space. It does not have the color on the pen. All it says on here is Camlin brush pen, Kokuyo Camlin Limited. That's it. The pen lid has this weird like ridges in there. You can put it on the back of the pen, but it doesn't really stay that well. It just pops off. And now we're just going to kind of compare it to the Dawn brush pen because I really want to show you guys what I'm talking about here. This is the two of them side by side. So I don't know if you can see the difference. They're pretty much basically the same. The only difference is the Dawn brush pen has like a shorter, completely the same diameter base, and then it kind of goes down into a cone shape a little bit quicker. And then the Camlin is a little bit longer of the same diameter base, and then the cone portion on that is a little bit shorter. But otherwise, they are exactly the same shape of brush pen. And the brush nib itself is almost exactly the same. The end of the barrel part here kind of, well, it's different. So that's pretty much the only difference. Also, the grip on the pens, this is like the full width of the grip, so it's actually quite a bit bigger around. And then the DOM has a smaller area here. So if you are using this pen, it's a bit more uncomfortable to grip actually because it's so much bigger. So I'm going to write out Camlin here, and then we'll kind of compare the brush pen nib itself when we get to write them both out. So this is me trying to hand letter really, really slow, okay? This is real time. I'm really trying to take my time so it doesn't look like I'm rushing it and it turns into a mess. So that's the Camlin. And then the Dawn brush pen. I think I'll write the same word, but just put Dawn beside it just so we can compare. I think that's a bit more fair. So you will notice that I'm lifting up after almost every downstroke. Okay, So really, other than a few of the mishaps here where it kind of skewed out underneath when it flopped down on me, there's not actually too much of a difference, which is funny. So, and I do feel a difference when I'm using these two brush pens. So the Camlin, if I'm pressing down on it, I'm going to try to show you here at an angle. So you can actually bend the pen nib completely 90 degrees. And it does have a pretty good bounce back. You can see that it bounced back right away. And it feels fairly firm. Like it's not easy to push it back, but it's also not that hard compared to any other brush pen that I've used. So now the DOMS, very easy. It just flops down like no problem. Like almost like it wants to. So I can tell that the DOMS are a much floppier version. They're very similar to the Minami Twin Plus marker actually. Just the colors aren't as pretty, and I think you get more with the Minami ones. But it's very similar to that. So if you were to put, I know this isn't a DOMS brush pen review, but that's basically that weird little notch that you get there when you press down all the way. But at the same time, you can get variations in both of them. So let's just focus on the Camlin here. This is me going at medium capacity. So I'm just pressing halfway down, and this is me pressing all the way down. So if you press all the way down with these floppy brush pens, you pretty much get this all the time. So you just have to color it in. And then if I try to correct it myself, my upstroke isn't as perfect as it could be. And then the problem with only using it halfway for, like, instead of pressing all the way down and kind of using your own, I guess, the feel of it and doing it manually, it's harder to control the width of the downstroke to keep it the same, like maintain the same width the entire way for all of your letters. I'll try doing it here. It's a little difficult, but I think if you were to use it again and again, it would become easier. So the problem that I'm getting is that the pen is definitely fraying. It's already a little bit frayed because I've used it a handful of times. And I mean, some of my brush pens I've had for 3 or 4 years, you guys, and they are not frayed, whereas this one's starting to already. And again, I think it kind of comes from the softness of the tip. I feel like it won't last that long, which kind of makes me sad. But yeah, I think it's definitely like the few Biores that I was showing in one of my last reviews, that the metallics are much softer than the rest of the colors. And I find that the nib of the metallics is actually more worn down, even though I have not used them half as much as the regular pen. So I think the softness of the brush pen itself makes a difference in how fast they wear. So we're just going to try it with a little bit of water now, just to see how they work. I'm trying it with black, but they are water-based. And we'll also try it on some watercolor paper. I also usually try this with like a blending palette, so we might try that as well. So I'll take some of the black. It's kind of the same for me as the DOMS. I would probably be more likely to use this. It actually spreads quite nicely on watercolor paper. I'd be more likely to use these for watercolor. It just, at the same time, because I do use like actual watercolor, I would most likely use my watercolor paints, if you know what I mean. So I'm not one to reach for a marker to do watercolors, but in videos like this where I'm trying to show you guys and compare, it makes a little bit of sense to do that, just so you can see, you know, the capabilities of the pen. Okay, so now what we'll do is I'll use a blending palette here, and I'm gonna pick like the two of my favorite colors. I don't know how well they're gonna go together, but I really like these two colors. So I'm just gonna get off this ink, And this is that peach color, which is so pretty. I love it. And then the green color, which I also really love. And I really do prefer using these water brush pens because they really move the ink around quite nicely. So I'll pick some up of the lighter color. Oh my gosh, that is like the prettiest wash of color. So with this brush itself, I can't get a really good hand lettering thing going on. So I'm just gonna try my best here. I just want to see how they blend. Actually fairly well. Like, these are really pretty colors. I would add some more of that color on there. That's really pretty. Okay, I'm officially obsessed with watercolor. So yeah, I think as far as hand lettering, and I guess, so I know I say that I review the brush pens for the review itself and to tell you guys my opinion on it. So I kind of judge my brush pens based off of hand lettering and whether they're good for hand lettering or, you know, whether you just want to color with them. The fact that you get them from India, the fact that they come from so far away, they take forever to arrive. I do live in Canada, so it's probably different for me than if you were living in the States, for example, or India, because obviously they're really accessible to people who live in India. But as for the color selection, you know, it is better than the DOMS, that is for sure. So if you were to pick one over the other, I would definitely say the Camlins are much better. DOMS, the colors are beautiful. Let me bring up a swatch of the colors for you. So the colors on these were absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if we can really kind of compare these two colors. Let's see. So the yellow, okay, I actually like the Camlin better because it's a bit brighter, but almost the same tone. The gold, which is, this is like the kind of mustardy yellow color. I like both of them for different reasons. I like the Camlin color better, but I like the way the color laid down on the paper better with the DOMS color. It's kind of weird. And then you have my favorite color, that kind of salmon pink. They're very close, but the Camlin is a bit lighter, and I kind of think it has a bit more orange tone to it, and this has a bit more pink. So I'd say that I like the Camlin better. The orange, I don't know, I think probably the DOMS. The fluorescent ones aren't even a comparison because I won't even mention that. Definitely the Camlin for the red. Again, no comparison, but the fuchsia, let's see here. The Camlin one is brighter by just a little bit. And I love this color too. I don't think I mentioned this. It's almost like a jewel tone. It's like this purple, beautiful purple color. I love that color. It's almost like a plum color. That there is no comparison for that in the DOMS brush pens. And actually, DOMS has no browns at all or gray. So I think that's where the Camlins would definitely win. They have a lot more earth tones and natural tones. As for the blues, ooh, okay, I'd say the blue in the DOMS color is better. I like that Camlins have two different colors of purple. I'd definitely say the darker purple would win for the Camlins over these. Also, okay, so I love this color. This is almost like, what do you call that? Like a Persian blue or a Persian green? Persian blue maybe. I love that in the Camlin color. I like this aqua color, but it's similar to this one, but I prefer it in the DOMS. And then the blue here, like the lighter blue, they're almost exactly equal. And then the bright green, it's a little bit brighter. So almost like the Camlins are brighter, and maybe it just seems like the colors aren't as beautiful because they've got all of these colors thrown in. The only thing that kind of sets it apart is that it does have the 3 highlighter colors, which is so weird for brush pens. Usually, you know, you stick with highlighters for highlighter colors instead of put them in brush pens. So, and speaking of that, we're actually going to be doing the Tombow neon colors next. So we'll talk about that in that video. But so let me know what your comments are. Like, what do you guys think about these? Especially my viewers from India. I really want to know your take on this because what other pens, what other brush pens do you guys have access to that are easy for you to get your hands on? I'd love to know because it's interesting, like different parts of the world has access to different types of stationery tools, and it's kind of curious to know all of that stuff and to see who uses what and what your preferences are. And if you do prefer the softer brush pens, what do you use them for? And if you do use them for hand lettering, how do you do it? That's my question to you. So if you guys enjoyed this quick mini review, let me know. Give this video a big thumbs up. If you're new here, I would love if you would subscribe. And again, last but not least, click that bell button to be notified every time I upload a new video. And we shall talk to you guys again soon. Bye now.